Hey, and welcome to this Orca guide. I'm going to show you some of the key features and some of the things I do in Orca to get the perfect prints. So let's just head on and let's get started. Hey, and welcome back. We're going to start by adding our printer, and for this section we're going to add a pre-configured clipper profile. So we start by adding this, and then we go to the settings tab and click the edit presets, and here you can set the bed size. In my case it's 235 by 235, and then you just click OK. And we're going to type in the print height, which in my case is 270 for the Ender 3S1 Pro. And we're going to choose Clipper as our G-code flavor. And no further settings is needed, so we will go to the machine G-code settings. The start and end G-code is where you type in the things you want your printer to do before and after a print. And if you have a Sonic pad, for example, you can put in a bed mesh calibrate line, which will make a new bed mesh every time it makes a print, or you can load a pre-configured or pre-saved bed mesh. Or you can download pre-made start and end G-codes, or you can customize your own for your likings. And if you haven't already watched the first video I made about Orca, I would recommend you watch that video and come back to this one, because in the first video I gave some explanation about the multi-material extruder motion ability and machine G-codes and so on in the first video. And if you have a question about a setting or something that I miss in this video, please let me know in the comments below, and I will do my best to answer each questions. So let me know, and I will do my best. And for the retraction, if you have a direct extruder, you can go with a length of 0.5 to 0.8, and the retraction speed should be around 0.45 to 0.65 millimeters per second. And for the lift set enforcement, I just leave it as is. And now for the motion ability tab. If you have the Sonic pad connected, I would just zero them out, or you could copy paste your calibration numbers like the maximum speeds and so on into Orca. If you zero them out, it will just use your machine's maximum limits, which is set in the Sonic pad when you made the calibrations. And now we just need to save the settings, and you can call it whatever you want, but I just call it Sonic pad. And then you can just press OK and you can close the window. And now we're going to add a pre-configured printer in Orca. And in my case I'm going to pick the Ender 3S1 Pro. As you can see, the list is long and there's a lot of pre-configured printer profiles to choose from. And we're just going to press confirm, and we can now go to the edit presets tab, and here we're going to set the bed size, in my case again 235 by 235, and just click OK. And the print height is 270, so that's all good, and we choose Clipper because we're using the Sonic pad. And now for the machine G-codes tab, and because we picked the Ender 3S1 Pro in the beginning, the start and end G-code is already filled with information. We only need to do the bed mesh calibrate command, which will make a new bed mesh every time you start a print. Or you can do the bed mesh profile load default, which will load the bed mesh which is saved from the Sonic Pad. So every time you do a bed mesh on the Sonic Pad, it will be used as the default. And for the multi-materials tab, I don't want to cover so much in this video because I talked a bit about it in the first video. Then we have the extruders tab, where you can set the nozzle diameter and different options like we did in the first section of this video. And now for the motion abilities tab, and here, because we don't want the slicer to control our maximum limits, we can just zero them out, which will make the Sonic Pad control every step and every maximum acceleration and so on. And you can also just type in the same information from the Sonic Pad into the settings in Orca. Then you know they are not interfering with the Sonic Pad's control over the printer. And jerk limitation is not used by Clipper, so we just leave them as is. And now we just need to save the preset, and again I'm going to add the Sonic Pad to the text. And you can call it whatever you want, and we're just going to click OK, and we can close the window and we are ready for the next step. And for the connections tab, we are going to use the IP address from the Sonic Pad, which is found in the network settings on the Sonic Pad. And this is used for the web user interface, and here we choose Octo Clipper, and then we type in the IP address from the Sonic Pad. And when done, you can just click OK. And now for the filament settings tab, you can add your own or create your own profiles for different brands of filament and so on. You can also customize your own profile. So if you have a brand that you know that this silk PLA needs a specific temp, you can pre-configure this temp for this filament, and you can just choose this filament and all the presets will be added. And if you are doing multiple colors, you can pick the color here, so you can see which color profile matches which filament, and you can set the minimum and maximum filament temperature, which is the recommended nozzle temperature. And the Orca Slicer enabled pressure advance should be unchecked because we want the Sonic Pad to control the pressure advance. And some of the settings here is from Bambu Studio also, so that is why you have the chamber temperature and so on. And here you can set the cooling for each type of filament, so you can again customize your own profile for your likings. So you can just pick this profile and you know this will run with this temperature or with no cooling for the first X amount of layers and so on. And for the rest of the settings, I would not change anything because the settings is already tweaked, so I like the settings as is. And in the settings overrides, I don't want to change any of those because I don't want it to overwrite the settings in the Sonic Pad. And again, in the advanced and multi-material settings, we don't need to change anything unless we are printing with multiple materials. And just remember, if you have made any changes or made a custom profile, remember to save it and give it a name. We're going to enable the advanced mode to get all the features in Orca. And you have a global and an objects mode, and we're going to focus on the global mode. And for the global mode, you have the quality, strength, speed, support and others tab. The layer height is what I call resolution. The lower the number, the more details you will get. I usually print at 0.2 unless I have something where I really want some fine details and a very smooth surface. I can go as low as 0.1 or 0.16. And for line width, this is one of the areas where I don't do any adjustments because I think they are perfect as is, so I'm just gonna leave it. And for the seam position, I normally use aligned. The nearest will be the nearest corner, the back will be the back, and random will be like blobs. I think aligned is the best, unless you have something with very sharp corners, you can use the nearest. And for the precision part, I never adjust anything there, so we just leave it. And for the ironing, if you want a smooth top layer, you can turn on ironing, which will make the nozzle not drag on the top surface, but it will smooth it out, so you won't get the same layer lines visible as if it's turned off. And for the wall generator, I know there's a lot of debate about Arachne or Classic, which one gives the best results. I think maybe you should try either one, and then let me know in the comments below what you think gives the best results. And now for the advanced, I always choose inner outer infill because of the way it prints, and I have never had any issues with that, and I think it gives the best results. And I also think this gives the best overall look of the prints when it's finished. And for the thick bridges is also a preference, but I never leave this on, I just leave it off. And the only one wall top surfaces, I never enable this. I know some are, but I have never had any good experiences with this, so I just leave it off. And the settings, make overhang or printable, I never use this because I normally use supports, and it will also change the whole geometry of the object, which could lead to other issues. And just above the quality tab, this is where you save all your presets. So if you tinker with a lot of settings, you can switch between each presets. When you save them, you can just pick them and it will make all the changes in all the boxes and you're ready to go. And you can also transfer the settings from one profile to another profile. And for the next step, we are going to the strength tab. And for the first one is the wall loops. That is how many walls you want in your object, and I recommend at least 3 unless you print in vase mode, which is only 1 layer, but 3 is in my opinion the minimum. And for the top and bottom shells, I always use monotonic. Monotonic makes the line go in the same direction, which will give the most symmetric look when the print is done. And for the infill, I always use gyroid or rectilinear. They have the least amount of infill to wall overlap, which will give less problems when the nozzle is traveling, and keep the infill density around maybe 15 to 20%, depending on what you're printing. If you're printing larger objects which are more detailed, you need to go to maybe 40 or 50%, but 20% is more than enough. And for the ensure vertical shell thickness, if you're printing like vases, you can make the walls more sturdy, but the quality isn't that good, but that is just my opinion, but you can just try to play around with it. I usually leave it off. And just a quick message, if you like my content so far, it would mean a lot to me if you like this video and subscribe to my channel. Then you will get notified when I upload new videos. Thanks. And let's get back to the tutorial. And for the speeds tab, the initial layer speed, I won't recommend going above 50. I normally use 35 to 45 to get the best bed adhesion. But again, it depends on how great your printer is calibrated. For the number of slow layers, I normally use 1 or 2. Just bear in mind this will increase the overall print time. And for the outer and inner wall, this depends on the calibration of your own specific printer, but I usually print around from 80 to 100 millimeters per second. But again, it comes down to how well your printer is calibrated, and also the size of the object. The smaller the object, the lower the speeds I would prefer to print. And for the sparse and solid infill, I normally go with around 20% less speed than the actual speed. And for the rest, I normally go for around 50% less speed. But I recommend you do some different speed tests and see what's working for you and for the printer. And if you're struggling with sagging overhangs, you can enable the slowdown for overhangs, which will improve your print. And I will just leave the rest as is. And for the acceleration speeds, we want the sonic pad to control, so we just disable this in the Orca. And for the last section, the jerk XY, this is not used by Clipper, so we just leave it at 0 and we don't change anything. And now let's head over to the supports tab. And if you want to enable support, I have had very good experience with the Tree Auto and then the organic, which is very easy to remove. And but you can try different settings, but I really think organic is one of the best. And for the threshold angle, I normally go for around 30 to 45 degrees. And the on-build plate only will give you the option to only rise organic trees or supports directly from the build plate and not on the object itself. And for the advanced top set distance and so on, I have never changed this because I have found that these presets are some of the best, but you are welcome to try different settings. And from my experience, I have never had any issues removing supports from the printed object, and they have been very easy to remove. Therefore, I don't do any changes for the rest of these settings. And this is one of the things I really like about Orca, is the presets. And now we're going to head over to the Others tab. For the skirt loops, it is the perimeter it makes around the printed object, and you can use this as a guideline for bed adhesion and the first layer. For the brim type, I normally use outer brim only, and this is helpful if you want to print a tall print or a small print, which gives the print a better contact to the print sheet. And I normally use around 10 millimeters. For the spiral vase mode, this is beneficial for cylindric objects or vases where you need a circular motion with only one wall from top to bottom. For the time-lapse, you can either choose traditional or smooth. It depends on what your preference, what you think gives the best results. And for the fuzzy skin, this makes the surface all textured like almost like a teddy bear. And now we're going to import our first object to Orca Slicer. This particular video, I'm just going to take a random object and import it into Orca. And if you have already set some settings and you're downloading a file which has a preset, you are prompted to either transfer them to the new profile or discard them. And if you accidentally move your object, you can press the top arrange all objects and it will move it back in the middle, and it will make sure that it is sitting on top of the build plate. And you have the option to scale the object just by typing in the amount of millimeters. Let's say I'm going to use 20 millimeters height, then it will make the uniform scale on all X, Y, Z axis. And you also have a option to add a multiplier, which will give you the option to apply X amount of objects on the build plate, either by automatic, or you can type in the amount of objects you want on the build plate, which is the clone option, and just above you have the fill bed with copies, which will do it just automatically. And you just need to type in the amount you want and press OK. And here I will just show you how to add the outer brim in 10 millimeters. And we just press slice to watch the preview. And when it's sliced, you can see the brim is added to each and every object on the build plate. And now we're going to the strings tab, because we want the vases to be hollow inside. And this is where we remove the infill and set it to 0. And when we have set the sparse infill density to 0, we are going to slice them again. And this is how they're going to look when they have no infill and are ready to be printed like vases. If you want to do calibrations, there's a built-in calibrations tab in the top where you can do temperature, flow rate, and the different tests. And this is very beneficial and useful if you want to make sure your prints are coming out perfect. The only thing you need to do is type in a start and end temperature, and everything is automated and you don't have to do anything else than that. I recommend you do different tests for each filament you have, even if it's the same brand or the same type of filament. Every time you take a new spool of filament, do the different type of test. And I have made documents with all the numbers and different test results, so I can just type them in fast, and I'm ready to go and I'm ready to print. Hey, I really hope you like this video, and if you like this video, please comment below what you want to see next. Hit the like button, and if you want to see more videos from me, subscribe. It means a lot to me, and I will be seeing you in the next one. Bye.